Previously on Project Maverick 1000.
We're gonna check out some side-by-side.
Man, look at that.
There is something majorly up with the transmission. I paid $6 grand for it. The dude gave me that trailer too. Hack job roof up here. This material is pretty hardcore. We'll trim it really nice. Oh, it looks amazing. This god-awful graphics kit looks so much better than it did before. I want to take off this snorkel kit. Everything was put together incorrectly.
Well, you can hear that thing's already making weird noise. Check out the carnage.
Stock exhaust that we're gonna be getting rid of.
This is surprisingly decent quality, it feels like. Well, this is definitely a lot more simple than the OEM setup. And on this episode, God, dude, you need to put prices and stuff. I will show you the expense sheet that we have so far. I'm gonna give you guys the history on this bad boy. A couple subscribers reached out to me and they knew the original owner. Dude, it is not a pretty past for this thing. Nobody really cares about the machine. They just want to know what happened. This guy was like not wanting to take any ownership of it because it was a piece of shit.
We're on the way up to Matt's to take care of the tires.
You have to be careful. Sometimes they bounce back and get you right in the face. I'm not even kidding.
Dude, what are you doing with your life, bro? Like, you're supposed to use the black key. That's the performance key.
In sport mode, fast. Oh, you can hear the idle went up. What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be working on the Maverick. I hope you guys have been enjoying this series. I'm doing this a little bit differently, trying to make it kind of like a TV show with the little previews in the beginning and stuff. I'm actually trying to make all my videos that way and do a total revamp and really update the channel because I'm trying to make the best content that I possibly can for you guys. I'm also trying to show a little bit more of the struggles, guys, because a lot of my videos, I get all these comments, people saying like, oh, dude, you make it look so easy. And while a lot of times this stuff is a little bit easier for me because I'm doing this very frequently, dude, I go through problems all the time, man. So I'm trying to share that with you. If you guys like this, definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below because like I said, this is for you guys, man. I'm trying to make the best format so that you guys can have some good, chill content. You can sit down, relax at the end of the week, and just have some good stuff to watch. So that being said, today's pretty exciting, guys. We're going to be putting on some brand new shoes on the Maverick. I got these badass tires that I showed you in the last video. They're Coyote by Sedona. They're pretty badass looking. So we're going to do that. We're going to try to take care of that speed sensor issue. If you watched in the last video, when I was driving, the speedometer doesn't seem to be working.
Oh no. Check it out. I'm going 0.
So I'm going to check into that, and I'm also going to give you guys the history on this bad boy. A couple subscribers reached out to me, and they knew the original owner and stuff, and dude, it is not a pretty past for this thing. So stay tuned to the end of the video, and I'm going to be sharing that. But without further ado, man, let's rip these wheels off.
Dude, this broken bolt is killing me.
All right, guys, we're on the way up to Matt's. You can see this SUV is stuffed. I didn't take the truck because this Durango needs to be inspected, and Matt is an inspection station. He's a technician, so we're gonna take care of this and take care of the tires. It's gonna be cool. But let me tell you what, man, it smells like tires in here. I kind of like it. This would definitely be a pain in the hole. First try.
Ta-da!
Yeah, I love Beadlock. Okay, so we're going to throw those tires on in 1 second, but I did want to mention one thing. If you guys notice, this bolt has a little bit of movement. I think it might be just slightly bent, probably from all of the hammering that we put on this thing with the impact gun taking it off. Now, I'm very familiar with centrifugal forces and, you know, how important it is to have them balanced, but I don't think that this would really affect anything because it's so close to the center. I don't think that's going to throw anything out of whack. Now, regardless, I'm going to order the new bolt anyway. I actually already ordered it, and it's a different style. It doesn't have this huge bolt on the tip, but this is the proper bolt. It's actually an update for this year, so we'll get the new bolt just in case. Might as well be safe. And in the meantime, just won't put the cover on. We have plenty of time here. We're going to build our snorkels and stuff, but I did want to address that because a bunch of people made comments on it. So you remember I was working on these CVT outlets. These are both to help keep the CVT cool. Now, apparently on the 2013 Mavericks, it's very common that these overheat. In fact, in the 2014 models, they actually updated this housing and they added an extra breather to keep this thing a little bit cooler. So I don't want to run these tubes right here. If you guys watched the last video, the ends are cut off, so they're not really turned down. So you can see where these things are exiting, and they're kind of in a lousy spot. You can kind of see from back here too, way up in there. And I would say, I mean, it's not super low. It's near the exhaust, but it's probably the lowest area, and it's right by the back tires. I know I've got these mud flaps back here, and I'd rather just not have those there. They're tough to see, that cat's huge. But I just don't want to have those vents there. I'd like to bring them up right here. They do make kits where it makes these snorkels, you know, come up here, and they usually have these like little curl things, or they'll come up like midway. So I'd like to do that, and I have an idea. I think I can do this with one of those DIY turbo kits. This is 2.5-inch tubing, so they come in 2.5-inch tubing and with like rubber elbows and everything and clamps, and you know, it's a universal kit, so you can kind of route your own pathway. So I kind of sketched it out how I want to do it. If I cut these off right here, I should be able to make a couple pipes here, turn them up, and the two tubes will come up straight here. Probably mount them somehow right here to the frame through the plastic, and then they'll just have two little curls right there, and them being the same diameter as the OEM tubing. And actually, it won't be a long tube either. It won't be much longer than the OEM setup. I think that'll be really nice, and I'll be a little bit more comfortable going into deep puddles and stuff like that. I've actually been watching the Adrenaline Junkie channel, and these guys seriously swamp these things like crazier than I would ever do. But then again, I've never really been in the utility ATV game and the UTV side, so I've always done like sport quads and stuff. They can't do crazy mudding and stuff, so it's all a new game for me. But holy shit, dude, if I'm gonna be riding with those guys, I at least need the snorkel on the back. I'm not too worried about the stuff in the front, but definitely I think this one should be upgraded. So let me hop over to the computer. I'll show you the kit that I'm thinking about getting. You guys can comment below if you think it's a good idea or not. I think I can make it look pretty decent. It's not going to look rinky-dink and hack job like the last guy.
All right, guys, so we are on eBay again. So here it is, man. This is a universal intercooler kit for like a turbo car or something, and it comes with 2.5-inch pipes, so it's going to match the CVT outlet pipe diameter exactly the same. It's got a whole bunch of universal joints, elbows, and I already have like a plan laid out in my mind exactly how I want it to be. I think this is going to be perfect. And it's going to end up costing me about 90 bucks with tax. So it's actually more money than if I bought new OEM CVT outlets. But I think that the OEM design is a little bit faulty, and from what I understand, that 2013 model didn't really have the best ventilation system. So I think this is going to promote a little bit better flow, and it's going to be worth the investment. Plus, I'll be able to rip it through some deep puddles and mud pits and stuff, and I'm not going to have to worry about anything getting in those rear outlets. While we're on here, I will show you the expense sheet that we have so far. A bunch of people were asking me like, "Oh, dude, you need to put prices and stuff." Dude, I do put prices, and there's always going to be a budget video at the end. So I will have this updated at the end of the build, but we pretty much have everything. So everything is on here. The total cost of parts so far is $1,646. So the total with parts is $71.46. Now it says the cost of bike, or side by side, whatever, is $5,500. So if you watch the original video, it said, I think I said $6,000 with the trailer. So I just took $500 off for the trailer because technically when I did the sale, we did divvy up the costs, and the side-by-side was $5,500 and the trailer was $500. So technically the cost of the side-by-side is $5,500. You guys can freeze the video, read through it if you want. And believe it or not, I actually sold the OEM clutch setup. I sold the OEM exhaust. So we're actually going to be earning some of this money back. And at the end, all of that will be factored in. All right, guys, so we got our big ass tire here and just barely fitting in the screen here. So I did go ahead and clean off our rim surface behind the tire when I was with Matt. And I also cleaned off our beadlock rings. There was some junk and dirt and stuff all on these surfaces that contact the tire. You definitely want to clean those up before you go ahead and install these. So I'm going to lay my bead in place. I also cleaned off all of our bolts. I threw these in the tumbler for about a day and a half, and then I coated the top in flat black. You could very well replace these with brand new. They're M6 with a 1 thread pitch, 25 millimeters long. They're really easy to replace, and I actually ordered these brand new, a 200 pack of them. I just don't feel like waiting. So we're gonna go ahead and use these. And before I run my bolts in, I'm gonna put just a little bit of anti-seize on these.
Now guys, it's important to note that I'm not actually using this impact gun to torque these bolts down. I'm just using it to run them in and save some time.
Any of these ones that give me trouble, I like to do entirely by hand, because the last thing we want to do is cross thread one of these and then have a nightmare on our hands. This one's a little tighter than I like, so I'm going to run a tap in it. Just clean up the threads. I think it's just dirt in there. Yeah, it's a little better. All right, guys, now I got my torque wrench here. We're gonna go ahead and torque these rings down. You'll notice we're gonna do 2 passes here. The first pass is gonna be around 3 to 4 foot-pounds. Now that's per the manual spec. They do have inch-pounds in the manual, but it comes out to about 3 or 4 foot-pounds. My torque wrench is in foot-pounds, so that's why I'm going by that. We're gonna do 1 pass. You'll see I'm gonna go in kind of like a crisscross pattern. It doesn't have to be the exact pattern in the manual. You just don't wanna go around hitting each bolt consecutively. Like I said, I'll be going in a diagonal crisscross pattern. Now usually after I've done my crisscross pattern, just to make sure I didn't miss any bolts, then I will go around the ring and do each bolt consecutively. Now you can do that once you have them all basically torqued around the same amount. And usually there's 1 or 2 bolts that I missed. So this is a good way just to double check your work. All right, it seems like we're all torqued down to 3 foot-pounds. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do our second pass at 7 foot-pounds. And something I do want to mention, you'll notice as I'm doing this, I'm holding the torque wrench where the grip is. You guys actually called me out on one of my previous videos where I was showing how to do OMF beadlock wheels, which is essentially the same process. And I was gripping the torque wrench up here, and you actually do get different torque readings depending on where you grip the wrench. So it's very important to grip it here. So thank you guys for calling me out on that. I learn stuff from you guys every day.
As you're tightening down these bolts, you guys may notice your beadlock rings start to flex. That's completely normal, and it's nothing to worry about. Boom! Looks killer, doesn't it? You can see just that thin coat of, I do a little bit of primer and then flat black, and it actually holds up even from wrenching on it. I did all the bolts on the Banshee that way, and they're still holding up, even the ones that are like really heavily torqued. And I just painted these about an hour ago, so they didn't even have that long to dry. But that's just going to prevent them from rusting. But it looks pretty good. These are all equally tight. So now we're going to go ahead and pump up the tire, and we'll seat the bead.
Almost forgot to wear my Buku hat. All right, guys, now before we set the bead, a lot of times it goes on a little bit easier if you pull out your Schrader valve, because you're going to get a little bit more airflow, especially with these heavy-duty tires. Sometimes they just don't want to seat in that bead in the back, and you got to struggle with them. But the quicker that your airflow is, the more likely the tire is going to go into place where you want it and pop on the bead. All right, now on the opposite side, I do want to mention it's really important to have this inner bead nice and clean. Now I already cleaned it up when I was at Matt's, but if you have any grime or grit or anything on this inner bead, there's a good chance you're gonna get a leak around the bead. That's like a really common spot where you get leaks. So I did clean mine up previously, like I said. Now to help the bead seat, because sometimes these things can be a real pain in the ass, I'm just gonna put a little bit of spray soap, dude. Windex will work. Some people like to use WD-40. I like to use Awesome because it's cheap and it's slippery. So you can use as much as you want. And now we'll pump these things with air. Now we're gonna let the air out of the tire, put our Schrader valve back in. And now I'm gonna fill this up to 16 foot-pounds where the manual recommends. You don't wanna go crazy on pressure when you're filling these things up, trying to seat that bead. There's usually a marking on the tire that will tell you what not to go past. Right here it says, do not exceed 36 PSI pressure while seating bead. And it says lubricated beads too. So you just wanna make sure that you're not going over that pressure. Usually you can go a couple pounds over and you're safe. If you have one that's being really tricky, one of the techniques you can do is when it's pumped up with air, you bounce the tire on the ground, and a lot of times that'll pop the bead. You just have to be careful. Sometimes they bounce back and get you right in the face. I'm not even kidding. It's a good time to take your soap, put it around the bead one more time, and just make sure you don't have any leaks around your bead, because if you do, now's the time to address it.
All right, guys, so check it out. Most of this bead looks fine, but there is one spot bubbling up right here. So that's an easy enough fix. Check this out. You can see air coming out of there. So I'm going to let the air out of the tire. We can push this bead down with our hand, and we'll be able to scrub in there with a brush, and we should be able to clean out whatever is causing air to leak out of there. All right, so I'm going to mark on this tire where the leak is. I'll let our air out. What I'm going to do is just press down like so, shoot a little bit of soap in there. You take a toothbrush or any kind of brush. I might use this because the bristles are long and we'll get in that crack a little bit more. And that usually there's just like a piece of debris or something that's preventing the bead from sealing. All right, let's give it another shot here. Well, it looks good to me. Here's where our X was. You can see there are no bubbles or anything here. I don't see bubbles anywhere else. And so we're good to go. This tire is nice and airtight. All right, guys, so I'm gonna set this one aside. This one's good to go. These wheels look badass, dude, and they look amazing with these tires. Definitely an improvement over stock. Even though those Maxxis Bighorns are great tires, I think these look killer. So I'm excited to put these on. I'm gonna go ahead, take care of the other wheels, and then we'll throw these bad boys on. Check it out, guys. What do you think? She's idling really nicely, I'll tell you that much. I think these tires look really good. They don't look exactly the way that I thought they would. I thought these would honestly be a little more square. They kind of have that bubble look now with the air in them. The back are actually at 17 and the front are at 15. That's very close to the specs per the manual. Granted, those are different tires, but I think that still looks really good. These have a nice aggressive pattern, but not too crazy aggressive. So it should be decent for going on the roads to get to the trails. Pretty happy with them. We have this one wheel with the random silver bolt that will be replaced as soon as the replacement bolts come in the mail. But everything's torqued down, and we didn't really have any issues putting these things on. These weights in here means that these wheels were balanced at one point in time. And I noticed they're only on the back tires. So I don't know if it's really necessary to balance these. I've never balanced ATV tires before, except like when we were trying to do the Banshee with the top speed stuff. Otherwise, I've never found it necessary to balance these wheels. So you side-by-side guys, definitely let me know if that's something that's important. Otherwise, I'm gonna rock them the way that they are. If I notice vibrations and stuff, I can knock those weights off. And if there's still vibrations, I can always bring them back to Matt's and we'll balance these wheels, but I'm not sure that's gonna be necessary. So before, you guys know I pointed out that the roll cage is tweaked a little bit. The driver's side of this thing was kind of sagging, I noticed, and it really added to the effect of showing that the cage was bent. and I think the tires were a little bit uneven. They were actually kind of thrashed, the old Maxxis Bighorns. When we pulled them off, there was that tire slime shit in there. Somebody obviously had repaired it. There were a couple of plugs, and I think they were just sitting with like different pressures. Even though I filled them up the one time, they had like different tread depth on each tire, and it just wasn't sitting right. So you can see it seems to be sitting really nice now. It actually looks really good. Now there is one last thing that I want to address. If you guys remember in the last video, the speedometer was going a little bit crazy, wasn't really picking up speed. So I located the speed sensor. It's on the side of the gearbox in the back. You can see it right here. And if you follow this wire up, it comes to this little plug right here with 3 wires. Now, apparently this is a really common issue with these older Can-Ams, to have problems with the speed sensor. Dirt and grit and stuff gets in there, and apparently if you pull the plug apart, blow it out with air, clean it up, and put some dielectric, it should fix the problem. So this should be an easy fix, and I do want to say extra special thank you to you guys, because ever since I started this build, I've actually had a number of people reach out to me in my DMs offering help with these things, including 2 master techs, well, at least 1 master tech and another Can-Am technician. And those 2 guys have been helping me out so much. If it wasn't for them, I mean, I probably would have been able to figure this out, but they saved me so much time, man. So I want to say thank you to you guys. I couldn't do this stuff without you. All right, let's see if we fix this speed sensor. Before I go, I do want to say, a bunch of people commented on the last video. They were like, "Oh, dude, what are you stupid? Why are you using the black key? That's stupid, man. That's for bitches." Because I had the gray key in there, and I mean, when I plug it in, it says performance key. I tried both of them. I think either there's like an override maybe on this machine or something. It appears that both keys are the performance key. But I still appreciate you guys pointing that out. One thing I did not do, though, is put it in sport mode. Fast. Oh, you can hear the idle went up. Oh, sport mode. Oh, yeah. So let's see. Oh, shit. It actually seems like it idles, or revs a little quicker. Yeah. Alright, let's see what happens. Let's just see if it even works. No. Shit. I think my seat's locked down. I'm like rocking back and forth. Alright, so speed sensor is definitely not working. Alright, let's look into that a little bit more. Okay, so I did a little bit of research on the speed sensors, and after examining this part, it looks like the one that's in here is an aftermarket, so it's probably been replaced before. Basically, the type of wire that they use is the way that I identified that. I looked at used OEM, and I found one out of a 2019 Outlander, which is the same part number. It's used for 23 bucks shipped. So I bought that. We'll replace it, and we'll see if it works, and hopefully it's no problem. Let me take you over to the computer. I'm going to show you a couple pictures and explain the history of this thing. It's crazy.
All right. So it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and the exciting stuff, you know, because nobody really cares about the machine. They just want to know what happened to it. But this is actually really cool. So there was some unique stuff about this side-by-side. You guys know that have been following. You know, it had the unique graphics kit on it. The front shock was mounted upside down. And some people noticed that stuff, and they reached out to me in my DMs. And one of the guys that reached out to me actually works at the dealership that sold this thing brand new. It was up in Pulaski, New York. And he knew the original owner and everything. So I got a lot of the backstory, and it's pretty cool, man. Even though the backstory is pretty bad, you know, it sounds like this side-by-side has had a bad life. It's still really cool to know the history, and I'm going to share it all with you guys. It would definitely affect the value of it, I mean, to a degree anyway, because it's definitely been fixed correctly. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys and bring up my phone screen. So here it is here, man. I'm not going to give any names or anything. Not that it really matters, but I would just rather keep it anonymous. So you can see pictures, dude. This thing was thrashed. So I will bring them up in a second. He says, that was when it was new. Kid slammed a tree. When it was new, we put a frame in it, and he rolled it a year later. Insurance totaled it, and it went to auction. I was wondering what happened to it. So, dude, there it is, man. Oh, dude, look at the, you can see the beadlock is cracked, and it had doors on it and stuff. Doesn't have that graphics kit on it yet. Now, you could say, like, that could be any Maverick, right? Well, it's definitely not. So, and I'll explain why in a second. You can see it's got that trash graphics kit on there. Apparently, they put that on at this dealer as well. And it also had a Trinity exhaust on there that got removed at some point. I have a theory of where that went. You can see it's got those Pro Armor seat belts, just like the one on mine. Oh yeah, man. Remember that graphics kit? Amazing. So you can see here, he says his name was Joe from Pulaski, New York. That's where it was purchased from. And he said he put on STM clutches, and it was an animal when it left the shop. So the STM clutches are no longer there. I found out where they are. Now, I don't want to give the guy's last name, but we did talk about the original owner. And when you start up the Can-Am, it actually has the guy's name on the dash. So there's no doubt that it's the same one. And as far as the spring goes, he says, yeah, it's funny, what made me notice it was the spring. Joe was helping us with the frame swap. We noticed it when it was all done. And I said, Joe, we put the spring on upside down. And he said, F it, I'm going to run it. I seen it like 3 more times after that, and then the roll cage was touching the top of the seat. It went away on a flatbed. And he says that snorkel had some sweet engineering to it. And no, I did not do the snorkel. So I think the snorkel was done by the guy that I bought it from. This guy was like not wanting to take any ownership of it because it was a piece of shit. So yeah, apparently it went to auction and it was sold. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't really know what happened, because after the frame swap and the guy Joe sold it and everything, like this guy was saying, it went to auction. But the paperwork that I received, I have a bill of sale that says it was bought from the original owner, and I don't know if it's this guy that I bought it from was the second owner or not. It can kind of get confusing. I'm stumbling over my words here, but it's definitely had a rough past, that's for sure. So now I had another subscriber reach out to me, and he goes, hey, is that the one from Pittston, Pennsylvania? Motor Noise. And it is, man. It came from Pittston. That's where I bought it from. He knew about it, man, and he says, my brother-in-law worked on that machine at a local dealership. He knows what was wrong with it. Guy was trying to trade it in. So this guy was probably trying to trade it in, and they were probably giving him a number that was a little bit lower than what he wanted. Crazy, man. It's just crazy. So his brother-in-law possibly replaced the transmission, which apparently was done under warranty. And he says the owner is still trying to sell a full STM clutch. So that bastard pulled it off and was holding out, man. But, you know, a lot of people do stuff like that. They pull off the expensive parts, and you can't get as much for them on the machine, so I can't really blame the guy. But yeah, so you guys can see, man, it had a rough history. So it's kind of cool to have a story behind a machine. And this really is the Can-Am bring back, man. We're taking that thing back to its former glory. I'm amazed that it runs as well as it does. I mean, a rollover really isn't that bad. It sounds horrible, but guys that run these things, I've been following that Adrenaline Junkie channel, dude. They roll these things all the time, man. I don't know if it was like smashed into a tree or what, but the motor seems to run really well. And we're going to address some more issues on it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this thing turns out. I just can't wait to rip it, dude. I really cannot wait to rip this thing. So there's some more stuff that we're going to be addressing and taking care of. The air-fuel ratio module is coming in the mail. Hopefully that'll be here soon. Once we throw that on there, I want to check the valve specs, flush the oil really well, just in case water got in there at some point in time. And then basically that's it, dude. We're going to take this thing to the trails and go ripping. I'm going to try to get some drone footage. One of my buddies just bought a really nice drone, and hopefully we can get some really sick footage. So I'm really looking forward to that, man. 250R parts should be back this week or next week. We took them over last week. They said 2 weeks, so that project's going to get rolling. I just ordered a piston for my Wiseco, or a Wiseco piston for the YZ125. So as soon as that comes in, I'll be sending the cylinder out to get re-sleeved. Stuff's rolling, man. getting really excited for this stuff, so I appreciate everybody following. Please give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying this content. I'm putting in a lot of work to try to make some awesome stuff for you guys. I love all you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Coronavirus sucks. I will see you guys. Peace.